You think they're not going to go to their boss and they're going to say to the chief prosecutor, this guy's not working with us, he's hiding the ball, he's being unethical, or he's pushing me too hard, and he's being rude, abrasive. I don't think that they're going to try to do what's in the best interest, not only of the public, but to try to give you a break. If you, in fact, have committed a crime, they have overwhelming evidence, you better get somebody who has a good reputation, not only with the court system and with a judge, but also with the district attorney's office or the prosecutor's office, and that has a good reputation all around. Because an attorney's reputation is one of the most important things that you can rely on to get you your day in court, but perhaps also get a case dismissed or perhaps water down your exposure. And we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about nurses who don't report criminal offenses. I get these cases more often than not. We have people, say a 42-year-old nurse comes into the office and says, Joe, I had a shoplifting charge back in 1985. I was 20 years old or so, and I took some jewelry and makeup and things and accessories under $200. I was very ashamed of it. I was in college when I went to, and I was in the RN program. I got the sheet that said, fill it out, report if you've committed any crimes. I was placed on deferred adjudication, which is kind of like setting aside a final conviction, but you had to go through probation and things in most jurisdictions. And but I didn't report it to the board. Not only did I report to the board, but every other year when I would renew my license, or third year or whatever, each state has a different renewal policy, I wouldn't tell them about it. I've kept this secret for years. Now my state board is asking for fingerprints. Now my state board is putting us on a database. Now my state board is saying that they're going to do NCIC checks, or the National Crime Database checks, and they're going to find out about it. And I've lied, and I've lived a lie. I haven't even told my husband. So when somebody comes to my office like this, they're scared. They've lived a lie for a long time. My advice to them invariably is tell the truth. It's a lot worse if you try to keep hiding it. And I tell them, as a lawyer, I have to tell you that, and as a nurse, you must self-report, because anything you tell me is in confidence, but I tell those people, sooner or later the truth is going to come out. There's an old Chinese saying, you can't wrap the paper with fire. It's going to come out. And it always does. The truth comes out. So I tell these nurses, you've got a lot of, you're in a profession with a lot of integrity. We're number one year after year, except for 9/11. Nurses, my colleagues, and me among them, I'm very proud to have been an RN and still a nurse practitioner today, as well as an attorney. We are rated number one in integrity and respect in this country, except for the year when 9/11 occurred in 2001 and the year following. Firemen or firefighters were number one. But other than that, we're right up there. People hold us in high regard and trust. We, along with teachers and physicians, but we're usually number one up there. So the nursing board expects that reputation to be upheld, and they're expecting you to tell the truth. So many of these people, we've gone to the board, we've gone and reported it 10, 20 years late and said, this person has made a mistake. They were scared, they were young, they didn't report it, and they want to report it. Don't wait until you get the fingerprint cards and then lie about it even then and hope they don't find out, because they will. So I'm just telling you, the world is getting smaller. The internet, everybody can find out anything about everybody. We're an open book. So it's better just to tell the truth. We all make mistakes. It's what we do after those mistakes that makes us a better nurse, that makes us a better human being. And we have to keep that in mind. Nurses who don't report face severe penalties. I've gone up there to the state board, and I've also been in other jurisdictions with other nurse attorneys in other states, and I've gone up there and worked with them. And what happens is that you have a nurse who hasn't reported a crime. They've tried to cover it up, Well, the nursing board is all over them like white on rice because they're angry. They're saying, how many other things did you lie about, Mr. or Mrs. Nurse? How many other things did you try to hide? Every time you were in the vicinity of a person's wallet that, they were working on a code and there's a person with a wallet of $1,500, did you take any of that money? And somebody's going to say, now, wait a minute. Hey, I have trust. I have honor, integrity. Well, then don't lie to the board because they're going to say anything's possible with this person. He may have diverted drugs, taken somebody's purse at the hospital setting or in the home health setting, didn't do things on nursing charting and interventions, but went ahead and committed fraud and wrote down that they did. These are the kind of things now we all understand, and all of my colleagues out there, I want you to understand. That's why the nursing boards get angry about honesty, about disclosure, because if you're not honest, if you don't disclose things, they'll say, what else do they lie about? What else do they cover up? So keep that in mind. If you're not yet arrested, and let's talk about a situation where you're worried about a certain situation, but you think you might get arrested, get an attorney quickly. And I'll tell you why. Because before they start asking questions, even before the employer asks you questions, I had a healthcare professional who was involved in a clinic that managed drugs there's a pharmacy next door. Well, the nurse was allegedly diverting some of the drugs, controlled substance, and was caught by the pharmacy. The pharmacy staff and the investigator confronted the nurse. The nurse made admissions. They called over the policeman, and they had a confession right there. But what they did was they made a mistake. And the mistake that they made was the store detective or the pharmacy detective did not invoke their rights and led them to believe that he himself was an undercover police officer. They were made to feel that they couldn't leave. They were made to feel that they couldn't terminate the interview. The nurse was made to feel that she couldn't ever talk to an attorney. And the nurse was made to feel like they were in a coercive environment. With all those factors combined, once the police got involved and then it was sent to the DA for prosecution, we managed to suppress the confession. And oftentimes people say, how can a criminal defense attorney represent criminals? Well, each of us is entitled to defense. The Constitution provides us with a right to have our day in court, but also to have an attorney to look out for them. And yes, we're on the side of right and everything, but these police officials, these people that came before the police officials, they have to go through a certain procedure. And if they don't go through a certain procedure, and if they don't do things right, then they don't get to use that information or that confession. And the reason being is, it's called the fruit of the poisonous tree, ladies and gentlemen. If there's fruit laying 20 feet away from a poisonous tree, just like evidence, it's all tainted. You can't use it because we can't trust, just like on the flip side I just said, a nurse that lies or doesn't disclose stuff, we can't believe anything they say. If police don't do the right things, if they don't do the right investigation, how do we trust them on this case? We don't, and we suppress the confession or we suppress the evidence. You've got to remember that it's not about and that's another stereotype, that every criminal defense attorney is, less than honorable for representing somebody. So many people are accused of crimes that they didn't do. And that's why we have the best justice system in the world. So many people are accused of crimes that they didn't do in other countries, and guess what? They're sitting in jails because they don't have a jury system. They don't have safeguards in place to suppress confessions, to suppress evidence. The theories like fruit of the poisonous tree, all of these things that attorneys have in order to represent a nurse zealously, they don't have. So keep that in mind, that remain silent, invoke your right, and don't forget, I've talked about over and over, the employers have their tricks. Tell us everything. You won't get fired. We won't report it to the board. It'll all be swept under the rug. Tell us. And then when you tell us, and then when you tell them, they say, we lied. We're going to go ahead and use it. And you'll say, wait a minute. And then they'll twist it and they'll say, you did something criminal. You just gave a confession. We can't protect you. You just committed a felony. We have to report it to the cops. We have to report it to the DA. We have to report it to the nursing board. And you're sunk. And then the nurse wonders why they did that. Well, don't trust them. I'm telling you, the employer is not out as an advocate. And I'm saying, hypothetically, if you were my client, I would tell you, don't trust the employer. They're not out 99.9% of the time for your best interest. They're there to limit their exposure.